Her name is Alpha Omega, like God?
Yes, means everything, means A to Z.
Oh my God. Hi, everyone. We're going to review The Creator. Hi, I'm Peter. I go by Dr. Peter, Dr. Disney online. This is my good friend.
Hi, I'm Dale. I go by Dale Song here online as a vocal coach.
And we just saw The Creator, and we want to talk about it because what a movie. It really clinches you in for the first 70% of the movie, and you are so prepared. What a breathtaking movie. So much to talk about because the actors aren't even able to do interviews for this movie because of a strike that has to do with AI.
That's still going on for what, 2 months
And
now
the
or
movie is all about AI. Honestly, a lot of really healthy questions are coming out of this movie. It makes you challenge yourself and think about the future because the movie is set in 2065, which is not too far away.
No, 40 years.
Imagine, oh my gosh.
That's basically a half lifetime away.
That's true. Imagine if we don't even make it that long. Because what this movie introduces is the concept of AI and humanity having a war that was set off by, this is all in the intro, so we're not spoiling anything, that was set off by a bomb that had exploded that was set off from AI that destroyed humanity. And so the humans have since...
It didn't destroy humanity. It
destroyed Los Angeles.
Well, yeah, there were less than 1 million, but about 1 million people killed in the one blast.
Yeah. So, sorry, not humanity was not gone. Correct. And they started a war right after that. There's been this constant battle and animosity, but throughout the time period of this movie, people have risen up on both sides. Humans have risen up on both sides to both fight against AI and also support AI. And it really challenges you. I mean, what side were you on for the majority of the movie?
Well, I think they bring you there, but I wouldn't say the majority of the movie. I was on the human side for a good portion of the movie.
Yeah, same.
And then I was on the fence for a while. So
they have a really, if you're a fan of anime, they kind of take the story beats of anime with how the movie is constructed, and they have a really fun title scene that breaks each of the acts, but it's not even
like chapters.
Yeah, chapter. Great, that's a great word. They're chapters, and they have like the creator, the child, the mother, the friend. And where I really find that the movie first slipped, it made its first mistake, was that they didn't name the ending of the movie The Enemy.
They didn't actually name the ending of the movie.
It just goes from the mother, which is a very sweet and tender moment, to the battle scenes in Act 3, and you're like, are we still in the mother? Which I would love to hear the director's commentary on it, because it was very choiceful up until that point. However, the Act 3 really has some coming together issues, which is very typical of Act 3s in most movies. So we'll talk about our rating at the end, but what are some highlights of the movie for you?
Well, I love science fiction. I love this kind of science fiction, and it's actually not unusual science fiction in that it still is kind of steeped in Star Wars visuals and lore. I mean, you still are going back to comparing an ancient culture, in Asia in this case, but an ancient culture with advanced technology. So that's very Star Wars. And there wasn't a lot of stuff like that in science fiction before Star Wars. That really made every single movie afterwards.
That's right.
Basically that kind of formula. So it was that, and that's okay. It didn't bother me. The visuals were amazing.
Honestly, go see it IMAX.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. There was one shot in particular. I mean, so many screenshots. There was one shot in particular where they had the backdrop, and I was like, whoa. And
Backdrop of the mountains.
Well, I didn't know there were mountains. On the left side of the screen was sky, and I was like, oh, this is gorgeous. And then you see the robots in front, but then on the side, you see the mountains scale up. And I was like, because we watched it at Lincoln Square in New York City, and it's like a 130 foot wide or something IMAX, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And I saw the mountains and I was like, stop.
Not just mountains. Those were like, if you can imagine the Rockies on steroids, that's what it was like. It was so...
Versus The Rock on steroids.
That's
pretty good.
That's very good.
One highlight for me from the movie, I also agree that it had a Star Wars feel, especially when they went to Act 3. We're not going to spoil things. One thing that I really liked is that this, as a pediatrician, it had a huge child component. This was about how kids interact with technology too, and how technology interacts with kids.
And the future. Children are future. So the theme of children.
Both. Yeah. Children are the future of both humanity and now... AI. And tech. And that's what that's the linchpin of the movie. That there is a child for technology. Technology gave birth to a child. How it happened, you're not even prepared for. But what it means is very tender. What I particularly loved as a maximum highlight of this movie was that they talked about how AI was protecting children, how the robots would go out of their way, sacrifice themselves, and were very motherly and caring and giving and compassionate with children. And you saw them like sacrificing themselves for children. You're like, whoa, so the value of a child is both in, because the humans are fighting for their own generations to come, which is their children, but that the AI also could do that was just, it brought tears to my eyes.
And it was fascinating to me that the AI sometimes looked like people.
Yeah.
They had the faces were emotional and they were emotional.
They called them Sims. They were like the AI robots versus the AIs that looked like humans.
Yeah,
instead of androids.
And the AI robots looked like droids. They didn't even have faces so much. You can kind of see that they had eyes, lights for eyes and stuff like that. But although they had emotions and humanity in their programmed into them too, and they also were carrying children at times. So it wasn't just the fact that it was the humanoid type of AI that was protecting children. They all were in this together. Although the police were always the robots,
right?
Which to me makes sense, because if you're going to have action scenes and have all these like stormtrooper kind of characters being killed, you don't personalize them.
Right. You want them to be nameless, faceless, like every other blockbuster movie. Avengers.
Yeah.
It's always just like, what's the new gargoyle we're killing this movie?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, just kill them. No one's gonna care. They're faceless.
Yeah.
I particularly like we talked about the cinematic backdrops of this movie. The tender moments. I loved the chapters and breaking things up because it felt more digestible. Like, as they showed up the chapters, like, okay, let's open a new snack. Let's have a new snack.
It was like that.
Like, that was a good chapter.
Yeah.
There were a lot of actors who shined in this movie. I particularly like the child actor, Madeline. She was wonderful. This is her breakout role. She did a fantastic job. I thought she was a boy the whole movie. Maybe because in my head, not bald, but like a shaved head. And she had like a little bit of masculine features.
She was very...
But maybe more androgynous.
Yeah,
which is a wonderful thing to do. I also really like John David Washington. We were talking about him. He just plays what you say. I don't want to use your word or mistake your words.
What? Just he really showed vulnerability in a role that was, an action figure type of, and I think that's what he's kind of known for a little bit. We saw Tenet, and that was all action.
I think he does a really good job of being that archetypal.
Archetypal, I think archetypical.
Is it archetypical? Not archetypal?
Well, I don't know. Typically archetypal.
He's the typically archetypal character who plays the action hero, but he had a sensitivity about him which was necessary for his interaction with the child.
But he also represented, in being vulnerable and all that stuff, he represented among this war human emotion. Because he really...
So did Gemma Chan, who was his love interest.
Yes, but that's just it, though. He's searching, after they get separated, he's searching for her throughout the movie. And I think his purpose was basically to express his emotions, his feelings of love throughout the movie. And that's from beginning to end. Speaking of beginning to end...
What?
The Alpha and the Omega.
Well, that was, again, let's start talking about things that I thought could have been a little bit better. Because right before Act 3, in my head, I told myself, I don't really rate during movies, but I told myself, I was like, this is a 9.6. And I was so happy. There's one thing that happened where they have this cool technological advancement where they can upload a human's brain and hear their final moments, which is a really beautiful thing. And they saved it for Act 3. And I was like, I literally turned to Dale. I was like, if they could really nail this, oh my goodness, this is going to make cinematic history. I thought that if they could nail that, it would be perfect. It would make this movie perfect. To hear what it's like when someone is gone, and every movie has this longing and grief and wanting, everyone says it, if I could just have one more minute, see them one more time. But this movie allowed them to do that in a nuanced way, and I was waiting for it in Act 3. So before Act 3, they had set that up, and I was like, oh, if they could do that, it's gonna make cinematic history, and this movie's a 9.6, at least. A reason why my rating came down, and I think yours did as well a little bit. So with that, let's talk about some of the issues. Alpha and Omega is exactly where it is. The whole movie, they're like, oh, we have to find Alpha, Omega. And then John David Washington's character finds a character and says, Alpha O? All right, I'll call you Alfie. And I'm like, for like a supreme spy agent, you're kind of deft. Deft? Is that the word?
No, that means capable.
No, he's not deft. You're kind of daft.
Ah. It's a little different.
Sorry, a little.
One letter.
One letter changed it. I was like, you're kind of daft, bro. I knew that, and I just joined your scene. And he's like, oh, Alpha O? I'll call you Alfie. The mission critical is right in front of you. So that was the start of some issues. I also did not really, I mean, it's part of the story, but all the destruction and like so many people died.
Yeah.
So many people died. And I don't even mean just like androids. Androids too, I felt for them too. A lot of unbelievable things that happened to John David Washington's character. You're like, how is he still alive?
Too many coincidences that way. But a
goodness.
lot of adventure movies are like that.
Yeah, which is fine. Which is why it was still, past those points, it's still a 9.6 for me.
Yeah, and going back to Star Wars too, it's like, how do they keep missing them? You know, when the stormtroopers are shooting.
When Gemma Chan is running on the beach and you're like, all these other people are getting shot and not her?
Yeah.
And did you see how she was running? She wasn't even sprinting. She was like this. I'll give you a live demonstration. And you're like, honey, they're firing at you.
They were firing behind her.
Some unbelievable things that I allowed permission. I was like, this is fine. It's fine. It's a movie. However, some things that were unforgivable were one shot in particular. John David Washington's like, yo, come back here. And he's like at the dock and he can't make it back to the dock because he's already on a boat. So he jumps in, he starts swimming to the dock. And the next time we see him, he's climbing up a bridge. And I thought, I get it. The continuity here is water to water. But homie was 3 feet from a dock that he could have raced after the guy. You mean to tell me it's more believable that he swam 3 miles to get to a bridge, to climb 700 feet and just so happened to land at the plot point he needed to be at?
Yeah.
Come on. Come on.
Trying to chase a child who went along the dock.
Yeah,
How would the child then go up 700 feet?
Right. He's like, hey, yo, come back. Swim. But let's go to the bridge instead. What?
Yeah,
so from that point on.
When those things happen, I always think they cut something out. You know, but
Maybe.
But it didn't seem so in that particular place.
Well, to us who review movies, you're like, this stands out. So a lot of like continuity problems and silver bullet coincidences in Act 3 that were unforgivable. Like things like in Act 3, the main character can shut technology off, but when technology starts attacking the main characters forget their power set. Can't do that.
That's one of the most egregious of them.
If you give your characters a power set, you need to build your story around that power set. Letting them forget?
Forget and/or that they don't go to that as their first resource.
Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness, technology's attacking us. If only.
I mean, at one point when the child says it's broken, you were able to fix so many other things because you are the most powerful AI that there is.
Speaking of which, the child is on the thing that they want to shut off and can't just shut it off. They have to blow it up. Why?
What do you mean?
He was on the Nomad. Why
Yeah.
can't he have just shut it down? Why do they have to blow up the Nomad? That's going to show up in Ryan's Screen Rant breakdown.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me you created
love
an android that could shut technology off? Yeah, but they had to get to the main thing and shut it off. Oh, so how do you shut it off? They blew it up.
That must have been really difficult.
Barely an inconvenience. It'd be super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Things like that were just egregious. They also gave themselves, to spice things up in Act 3, guess how long they gave themselves? They gave themselves a timer, like every other movie does, which is fine. They gave themselves 10 minutes. You're like, oof, they gotta get out of here. Homie climbs off a rocket launcher, runs back to the ship, and that's not even the worst part. The child runs, finds another character, drags a human body to a plant field, uploads a memory drive, then says, I'm sorry, races, they get caught by a machine that they can't shut down with their power set, then he says goodbye, then he races back, finds the character he needs to see, they kiss, movie's over in 10 minutes.
I think that's a little bit of a spoiler.
Well, I don't know, I felt like I gave it enough of a pampering with just saying
enough.
characters.
Not really enough. At the very end, when you're talking about they get together and kiss,
Yeah, what the heck? It's just...
That's too much of a spoiler.
But I didn't say who kissed. And I think that the movie is particularly... give yourself 10 minutes and to have so much that you still need to accomplish. Like, what's wrong with 20 minutes? Does the audience care? Do we
20
care?
minutes feels a little lax. 15, I thought.
With how much they had to accomplish? He was on a rocket in outer space.
I know.
He can climb back in 10 minutes. I
But
can't
these
run
are
a 10-minute mile.
These are movie minutes.
Can you run a 10-minute mile?
Yeah, sure. These are movie minutes.
I did not like the purpose of this movie is what? What is the messaging? You had maybe some messaging about AI, technology, how we have to be more ethical in our interactions with them, and some warning sign to us as we're starting with ChatGPT and all these things, contracts and strikes are happening. Fine, I get that. It wasn't super clear what the message was. Fine, that's the backbone of the movie. To have not allowed them to talk, to have resurrected Gemma Chan's character, and she had the memories, and they could have talked about something so far. Give her a monologue. She had nothing to say in this whole movie. She came back, and all she said was, Joshua.
Joshua, yeah.
And they kiss, and that's the end of the movie. As everything explodes. You had a character brought back to life
Who was not just his wife, she was
the creator.
the creator herself. He said we each had our secrets. It's like, she had a big secret going on.
She created the child.
She created.
Does he not want to know? Does he not want to know? And that's the first thing they say. Also, it just so happened that he landed at the exact farming ground that she was.
All of a sudden, he was there after we saw him struggling on missiles and stuff. That was way too convenient.
So many action walk on set instead of how did he get there? So many how did he get there moments, which is why give yourself the 20 minutes. Fine. Oh, how did he get there? He got 20 minutes, bro. Let it rock. 10 minutes and they had to do all that? No way. You can't even walk that fast through all the things that they had to do at the end.
Right.
And he just would pop up at different shots and you're like, oh, this is beautiful. And people, you clapped at the end, but my rating significantly dropped with all those silver bullets. I wanted to hear what the creator had to say. She kissed him and that's the end. He's not the movie. I get it. The movie's about family and what is the definition of family and what is our role with technology. She was the person to hear from. She's the message.
Yeah. She's the title. Yeah, that was a missed opportunity.
Huge one. Not even a miss. That's a mistake.
A mistake, yeah. It was great they had a tender moment because this way you knew, because you weren't sure. I wasn't sure when they separated, when she was, went off to go to the boat and leave in the beginning. She actually did care about him. So I liked the fact that they did come together and that they did show that they loved each other mutually, because he did, obviously.
Right, it answers the question about love, but it has no answer of the reason the movie. We have so many movies about love. We don't have movies about AI and tech. This was a movie that was so sophisticated, and they not even dropped the ball. They threw the ball out in Act 3.
And having love be in this kind of a movie, I thought was essential to make it stand out, because it is about, just machines. But the man versus machine, that's been a 200 years since the Industrial Revolution. That's been a 200-year
question.
Anxiety. And this brings it to a real high level, especially because we're dealing with the AI stuff today.
And even more so, I will say, because they bring children into the picture.
And they knew that. They
did.
Was very confident.
Which is why you have a father, a mother, a child. The child is safe. What do the parents talk about? It's like when you put the kid to bed. Then the parents have the real discussions. I wanted to hear that real discussion. I wanted closure. Everyone's like, oh, it's so beautiful. They kissed.
That's the word. There was no closure.
Yeah. I love the movie. I want everyone to watch it. I want to talk about it. I want to show my family. There isn't anything racy that happens in this movie. There's some curse words.
That's another thing. It was PG-13.
Oh, I thought it was R for a long time.
It should have been R. You know.
It's his TED Talk. Everyone, let's
listen.
My
TED Talk is about violence of this magnitude in movies. That's okay. But, a few words here and there, which I also don't like, that will give the rating an R versus, you can only say certain words once, and therefore it could still be a PG-13. I don't think, if that word is said at all, I don't think it's PG-13. I think it should be an R right there and then. Therefore, something this violent, this many deaths, this
on-screen deaths,
and not just on-screen deaths, but really
torture.
The mutilation that you saw too,
and just things that were discussed, like cutting people's faces off, and you're like, for a large part of the movie, I was like, this is rated R for sure.
Yeah, of course it's rated R.
And then I saw PG-13, and I was like, are you kidding? This is not a PG-13 movie.
No, and I think I think it's not good for child psychology. I think we're too permissive of that kind of thing.
Especially, it's one thing with violence, with using weapons and firing, But to show people dying from warfare, that's not a PG-13 movie. And the scale of it, the scale of
The
death.
scale of it. I mean, I as an adult don't like, seeing violence like that myself. But as an adult, I can process it.
I couldn't. I was struggling for a bit. That's how I was like, oof.
Dude.
I looked away at one
You
point.
did, you
I've
did.
not done that. I actually was reflecting on that. I was like, why am I looking away? But it was just the impending death of all these boats of families that were trying to leave the scene were just killed by the U.S. Army with bombs, and I saw it flying and all the flares coming to them, and I just turned away, and they show it on screen.
Lots of innocent deaths, yeah.
I think people should watch it, but consider it rated R, watch it in IMAX, have healthy discussions, see if you agree with our thoughts about Act 3, and let's give our rating. And our rating on a scale of 1 through 10.
Decimals are encouraged.
Ready, set, drum roll, please. 7.0. Oh, okay. All right. We both were at 9.6 at some point during the movie.
Until for him at that point that he discussed. and
Act
then-
3 was when I started counting. Was
And then
not
when
even
he-
me when the movie started.
And then after the movie, when he discussed it with me, because I was needing to process a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot here that is worthwhile, and then you have the mistakes or the issues.
It's not because it's a bad movie that I'm
No,
giving it
it's
7.
a-
It's because it could have been revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a fine movie. I think people should watch it. Hence why it's an odd position to be in to give it a 7, because I'm like, it's gorgeous, it's sophisticated, it has a wonderful story to tell,
Well acted, well directed.
but the ending,
Yeah, it doesn't stick to land.
like many movies,
Most movies.
which is a huge question of mine. How do you not know how you're going to end the movie?
Well, I think they knew how they're going to end the movie.
Yeah, but
why,
you could have
why-
just.
Why did they not think outside the box they were trying to think outside of?
It was a
They
very.
boxed in the ending.
It was a very atypical blockbuster movie set in a different. Oh, I just also want to highlight that they had a whole bunch of people from other cultures that were just featured on screen behind the screen talent. Behind the screen, in front of and behind the camera were people from various cultures, and I'm so happy that they gave the opportunities for people to just be on camera who aren't typically on camera. And they had such an atypical structure to their movie. They had the chapters, they had anime influences, but they went with a very American ending, and I
Yeah.
dislike that so much because that was the wrong thing to do.
I wonder when they screen test these movies.
Was no one like, can we hear what she has to say?
Yeah, or do they just say, "Oh, well, that's a movie we can digest. That's an ending we can digest. Therefore, we applaud it."
I'm thinking, imagine if they did have her say this whole thing and people are like, but where's the kiss? It's probably in a deleted scene somewhere, and they're gonna release it. And there's no way you have Gemma Chan play such an amazing character who has potentially so much to say and not give her something to say. Even just screenwriting wise, that's a
Yeah.
mistake. There's no way that's what the decision was. But maybe it was. I mean, that's what it was because it's the final product, so that's all we have to go off of. But excited to see if they do add that deleted scene in later. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching with us. We had a pleasure chatting with you. Let us know what you thought down below. And as always, be safe, be strong, be swag. God bless you. We'll see you in the next
Good
video.
health to you and yours, and keep the arts in your heart.
Ciao.
Bye.